Welcome back, everyone. We're doing a deep dive today, and it's going to be a good one. We're talking Chicago, specifically REO investing in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Chicago real estate. Always interesting.
It is. And to guide us, we've got some great insights from Michael Linton. He's been in the Chicago real estate game for, get this, over 38 years.
Wow, 38 years. That's a serious track record.
It is. And you know what else? He's really made REOs his specialty. You can find all sorts of great stuff from him at chicagodealflow.com. We'll put the link in the show notes, too.
Definitely worth checking out. You know, one thing that jumped out at me about his approach is he doesn't just talk about finding REO deals, he talks about creating REO deal flow.
Creating it, huh? So it's not just waiting around for something to fall in your lap.
Exactly.
All
He
right.
makes it sound more like an active process, building a system.
Okay, I like that. But before we get too deep, let's back up for a sec. For anyone who's new to this, let's define those terms. What exactly are REO properties?
Right, the basics. So REO stands for real estate owned. Basically, these are properties that have gone through foreclosure.
Foreclosure. Okay.
And now they're owned by the lender, which is usually a bank,
Because the bank is stuck with them.
pretty much. And their main goal at that point isn't usually to make a huge profit. It's more about just cutting their losses, getting that property off their books.
Makes sense. So that's where this whole idea of REO deal flow comes in, right? It's about figuring out how to make those properties work for you.
Exactly. Michael defines REO deal flow as the entire process. From start to finish, you've got identifying the properties, acquiring them, managing them, and then, of course, making a profit from them.
So it's a whole cycle.
Yeah, it's not just a one-off kind of thing. It's a system.
Got it. Now, why Chicago specifically? What makes Chicago's REO market so attractive?
Well, Michael talks a lot about the diversity of Chicago's neighborhoods. He says that translates into a wide range of property types, price points, you name it. There's something for everyone, pretty much.
So hypothetically, somebody who's comfortable with a fixer-upper in a, let's say, up-and-coming neighborhood.
Right. They might find a different kind of deal than someone who's looking for, move-in ready place in a more established area.
Got it. Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly. And that leads to another point that Michael really emphasizes, which is his hyperlocal expertise. He's not just saying, hey, invest in Chicago. He's really drilling down to specific neighborhoods, even micro markets within those neighborhoods.
So he's really got his finger on the pulse of the city.
Right. And he argues that this level of hyperlocal knowledge can give you a real edge, especially when it comes to spotting those covered land play opportunities he talks about.
Okay, covered land play. That sounds intriguing. Can you unpack that a little bit? What exactly does he mean by that?
Sure. So imagine this. You buy a property, right? It's got an existing structure on it, maybe a house or a small apartment building.
Okay,
And maybe it's not in the hottest location right now,
right, not prime real estate.
but you see the potential. Maybe there are zoning changes in the works, or maybe you see signs of gentrification starting to creep in.
So you're betting on the future of that area.
Exactly. You're buying the land now, you're covering it with that existing structure, and you're banking on the fact that it's going to appreciate significantly down the road.
It's a long game, for sure.
It is. But Michael seems to believe that, especially in Chicago, with all its dynamic neighborhoods and constant change, this covered land play can be a really smart approach.
Interesting. So if someone's intrigued by Michael's approach and wants to start building that REO deal flow, what are some of the first steps he recommends?
Well, one thing he really stresses is the importance of building relationships with the key players in the Chicago REO space. So think banks, asset managers, REO specialists, that kind of thing.
So networking is key.
Absolutely. He believes those personal connections can give you access to off-market deals.
Deals that never even hit the public listings.
Exactly. And he also talks about staying informed, keeping up with market trends, foreclosure activity, all of that.
So using technology data analysis.
Yes, but also just keeping an eye on local developments, zoning changes, new infrastructure projects, anything that could impact property values down the line.
So it's a combination of high tech and, boots on the ground observation.
Right. You need both. And he also really emphasizes the importance of acting decisively when you find a property that seems promising. These REO deals can be very time sensitive.
So you got to be ready to move.
Exactly. Hesitation can cost you a great opportunity.
But I imagine that doesn't mean rushing in blindly, right?
Of course not. Michael is a huge advocate for thorough due diligence. He talks about investigating the property's financial history, checking for any potential title issues, and getting a really clear picture of its physical condition.
So no emotional buying decisions. It's all about the numbers.
Yes, and having a solid financing strategy in place, whether it's cash reserves or strong lender relationships, you need to be prepared to move quickly when the right opportunity comes along.
Makes sense. You don't want to miss out just because you're scrambling to get your finances in order. So we've got the groundwork laid. Now, I'm really curious to hear about some of the specific investment strategies that Michael highlights for the Chicago market.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty. That's where it gets really interesting.
All right, so we've got a good handle on the basics of REO investing and how Michael approaches it with that create the deal flow mindset.
Yeah, that's key. It's a different way of thinking about it.
It is. So let's get into some of those specific strategies that he outlines, especially for the Chicago market. I know one that caught my eye was what he calls the distressed commercial REO play.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's where his commercial real estate experience really shines through.
Right, because we talked about the covered land play, which seemed more focused on residential properties.
Exactly. But this one shifts gears to the commercial side of things. Think about those, underperforming commercial properties.
The ones that have seen better days.
Exactly. Maybe a shopping center with a bunch of empty storefronts.
Or an office building that needs some serious love.
Right. And Michael suggests that these can actually be great opportunities for investors who know what they're doing.
Interesting. So let's say, hypothetically, I stumble across a shopping center that's definitely seen better days. What would Michael's approach be? Just buy it and hope for the best.
He'd probably say, hold your horses. He'd want you to have a plan. He talks about not just identifying these distressed properties, but having a vision for how to turn them around.
So not just buying low, but having a strategy to add value.
Right. Maybe it's attracting new tenants, doing some renovations, or even completely repurposing the property.
Like turning an old office building into lofts or something.
Exactly. But he also makes it clear that this kind of strategy often requires specialized knowledge about commercial real estate.
Which makes sense. It's a different beast than residential.
It is. He suggests that if you're not familiar with that world, you might want to partner up with someone who is, or at least get some guidance from experienced professionals.
So brokers, property managers, legal experts.
Exactly. Having a solid team is crucial.
And I bet those relationships can also be helpful in finding those distressed commercial REOs in the first place, right?
Oh, absolutely. He emphasizes that those insider connections can be invaluable for finding deals that might not even be listed publicly.
The hidden gems.
Right. He also talks about using technology and data analysis to pinpoint potential opportunities.
So again, that blend of high tech and high touch.
Exactly. But even with the best strategy and all the right connections, there are always potential downsides to consider. No investment is without risk.
Right, and Michael doesn't shy away from talking about those challenges. In fact, he dedicates a good chunk of his website to outlining those potential pitfalls of REO investing.
He does. He wants people to go in with their eyes wide open.
So let's talk about those challenges. What are some of the things that he warns investors to be prepared for?
Well, one of the big ones is the potential for significant repairs. REO properties, especially ones that have been sitting vacant for a while, often need a lot of work.
Yeah, banks aren't usually in the business of fixing things up.
Right, they just want to get rid of the property. So those repair costs often fall on the investor.
So a property that seems like a steal on paper could end up costing way more than you bargained for.
Exactly. And then there's the risk of hidden problems, things that might not be obvious during an initial walkthrough.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, structural issues, plumbing problems, even environmental hazards, things you might not discover until you start digging deeper.
Yikes. That's where having a good contractor on your team is essential, right?
Absolutely. Someone who can spot those red flags and give you an accurate estimate before you commit.
Makes sense. What else does he caution about?
He also talks about the importance of checking the property's financial history, making sure there are no title issues, things like LAS or unpaid taxes.
Those can be real headaches.
They can. So having a good real estate attorney is key.
Sounds like assembling the right team is absolutely essential in this game.
It is. And even with a great team and a solid plan, there's always that wild card. Market volatility.
Real estate markets go up and down. No getting around that.
Right, and that can affect your exit strategy, your overall profits, everything.
And that's where I think Michael's deep experience in the Chicago market is so valuable.
Oh, absolutely. He's seen those cycles firsthand. He knows what to watch for, how to adjust strategies.
It's almost like having a seasoned guide to help you navigate those choppy waters.
That's a great way to put it. Ready to wrap up our deep dive with the final part.
I am. Let's hear what other gems Michael has to share. So much good stuff from Michael so far. As we kind of wrap things up here, what's really sticking with you? What are those key takeaways from his insights?
What I find fascinating is how he views REO investing. It's not just about, like, making a quick buck.
Right.
It's almost like a philosophy, a way of thinking about real
I
estate.
see that. He's big on patience, diligence, building a sustainable approach.
Totally. And the thing is, he's not just talking about it, he's been doing it.
Almost 40 years in the Chicago market.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
a lot of experience. And that's why, when he talks about that hyper-local expertise, it really hits home.
It does.
Yeah.
Knowing REOs in general is one thing, but understanding Chicago, those specific neighborhoods,
Even blocks, he says.
right, that's a whole other level.
And that's where having that solid team comes in. Like, he keeps emphasizing
Those
it.
local experts, attorneys, contractors, property managers, people who know the lay of the land.
Absolutely. And he's also really upfront about the potential downsides.
He's going to sugarcoat it.
Nope. Repairs, hidden problems, market shifts. He lays it all out.
But he doesn't just say, watch out. He gives you ways to deal with those challenges.
Right. Due diligence, solid financing, knowing when to walk away from a deal.
Yeah, all crucial. And that brings us back to that core principle of his, patience.
Oh, for sure. REO investing is not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Definitely not.
It's a long game, strategic, informed decisions based on research and good advice.
It's like he's saying shift your mindset. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Perfect analogy. And for anyone who's really serious about diving into REO investing in Chicago, his website, chicagodealflow.com, is a goldmine.
Seriously, he goes deep on all of this, plus tons of resources for investors, no matter their experience level.
Great starting point.
It is. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We did. Lots to think about.
Yeah, and hopefully everyone listening feels a little more equipped to navigate the REO market, especially in Chicago.
Knowledge is power, right?
It is. All right, everyone, that wraps up our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us, and happy investing.